Hello again, whiskey friends. Thanks for joining everybody for a special tasting that we have planned today. Going to go through both a Tennessee whiskey and a rye. Both bottles are from Jack Daniel's, and this is a collaboration pick between Dusty Dan, Hello Again Whiskey Friends, Stuffin' Whiskey, The Bourbon Wrench, and Drifting Drams. Talk about a team of great palates, but did we do any good and did we find something special? Today we'll go through a little bit of the story behind this pick, what we learned about Jack Daniel's throughout our tour and experience, and then get into the tasting notes of the two bottles, which will be available very shortly here on Shared Pour. So if you want more news on this or future barrel pick releases, be sure to join either the Patreon or the private Facebook group, link in the description, or join the groups of any of the other collaborators who will be releasing this at the same time. So thank you for joining, whiskey friends. Let's kick off the show. All right. Truly a dream experience here that we are about to go through. Dusty Dan was unrelenting in his desire to get a barrel pick of Jack Daniel's in the books, particularly in 2025. He hunted down everyone he could to find a way to make this happen. And what that had resulted in is in September of 2025, we assembled an amazing pick team, including Dusty Dan, myself, Josh from Stuffin' Whiskey, Trev the Bourbon Wrench, Ethan from Drifting Drams, and then a very special guest, Travis Robeson. This was my first time at Jack Daniel's, getting to explore Lynchburg, having an amazing southern lunch at Miss Mary Bobo's, then getting to go on the tour at Jack Daniel's before our barrel pick. It was also the same day that a distillery release of the Sweet Mash came out. So I got to walk away with a few of those too. Now, in terms of the picks themselves, starting with the Tennessee whiskey, this one's coming from Barrel House 2-30, was bottled on November 13th of 2025, which means it sat in the barrel a few extra weeks after we picked it. And for the sticker on this one, we're going with the Flawless Victory, because when it came to the flight of the Tennessee whiskey, we were 6 for 6 on votes on this barrel. This barrel was the hand-down winner, unequivocally so. And the proof on this one is 129.2. While we made quick work of the Tennessee whiskey, the rye was something a bit different, with there being a constant battle between two different samples. On the rye, so this is coming from Barrel House 113, and we were told during the tasting that it was 9 years. So you're looking at a 9-year Coy Hill Rye. This one is coming in at 130.9 proof. And because of the struggle of the voting during that particular tasting session, when we were split 50-50 between two samples for hours, we are calling this one the Sudden Death. And if you've been following us for a bit, the last time we did a collaboration pick with Stuffin' Whiskey was the Sonic Boom, with its Street Fighter theme. Thus, we thought it'd be fun to do a Mortal Kombat theme for the Jack Daniel picks. And I really love how Dusty Dan turned out as Goro over here. And then Trev makes a perfect Johnny Cage. We actually deliberated so much on the Coy Hill Rye to get this pick right that I almost missed my flight home. I mean, I honestly thought, I think we had 6 or 7 hours to do the tour and the barrel picking experience. I thought that was plenty of time. Whew, lesson learned on that one. I'm never gonna try to the same day flight home ever again. But shout out to Travis for getting me home that day. So let's get into the tasting notes here first with the Tennessee whiskey. And as I mentioned, this was called the Flawless Victory because this one stood out to everybody immediately. So now let's go through the tasting notes, starting with the nose, and then we'll dissect the palate. Cheers, everybody. Let's get into this thing. On the nose, what really sticks out to me on this one is the level of the baking spices. It almost reminds me of a Christmas ale, essentially with that blend of cinnamon, nutmeg, and allspice. But right next to that is this lovely oak, and the berries I get in particular from the nose are mainly berry driven. When we're talking about the nose on this one, the thing that continues to stick out with me and has stuck out with me during the tasting was that I get this Christmas ale-like spices that blend between cinnamon, nutmeg, and allspice. But right next to that is a lovely oak, and then the fruits, at least initially, come off more berry forward than they do banana, though you do get a little hint of that banana nut bread as it opens up a bit more. That is definitely not the main event of this Tennessee whiskey. And then next to that oak and berries, I get this nice vanilla and chocolate swirl. So once again, playing lanes in both these brighter and darker flavors. All right, let's go in for a taste here. But even before we go in for a taste, just want to show you how rich and oily this thing is. This is one of those ones that Ethan always refers to as stretch marks, not just legs, but stretch marks across the glass. So cheers, everybody. Let's go in for a sip. On the taste up front, vanilla pudding and Nilla wafers were my initial instinct, but that pudding is definitely spicy with all that allspice, cinnamon, and nutmeg that we've been talking about. The oak definitely sticks out as well. This really comes across older than I'm used to on some Jack Daniel's Tennessee whiskey picks, the longer that I've been sitting with it. And on the front palate too, those berries come through more so than that banana that people would typically expect. And the transition to mid palate essentially just plays out in that same way with the vanilla pudding and the Nilla wafers with all of those baking spices. As much as I love the flavors that this is giving on front palate, they calm down a little bit mid palate. And then they hit you again on the finish. The finish is probably the standout part of this particular Tennessee whiskey. On the finish, the oak comes roaring back compared to the brightness that I was feeling on mid palate, essentially turning that vanilla pudding into a chocolate pudding. And that pudding is layered on top of a spicy banana nut bread. And then the combination of the oak, the chocolate, and the banana nut bread are pretty darn unrelenting on the finish. You saw the mouthfeel earlier with what it was doing to the glass. You feel all of that on the finish. I think what's a fun journey on this one is that Christmas ale spice profile in combination first with the brightness of the berries and the vanilla pudding that then transitions into that chocolate pudding and the banana nut bread. Essentially both creating a Tennessee whiskey that is on profile and off profile, just depending on how you dissect it and where you are in the experience. So again, what we just walked through was the flawless victory, 6 out of 6. On the pick team, pick this one to move forward. And getting to explore this one recently with Kelsey, Darrell, Dusty Dan, and a whole party of people, I was actually also very impressed on how this one stands out in the midst of a bottle share situation. That is always a clear test, because while it could be a flawless victory, on the table with the samples that is compared against that day, will it stand out at a bottle share? And I can confirm the answer is yes, and I think it's on the back of that mouthfeel and that crazy finish. So I'm going to take a quick reset, but why don't you listen to this message about our dear friends, Katie and Ethan, and the absolutely wonderful things they are doing in the world of coffee. You might hear about drifting drams from our barrel picks, but not only do they know whiskey, they know coffee even better. Katie and Ethan are always bringing in the best coffee they can for this community. And if you enjoy coffee or you are curious about getting into good coffee, you need to check out Drifting Drams. Fancy coffee for regular people. So check out their website to support a small business that is passionate about what they produce. And they will forever change the way that you look at coffee. All right, now let's get into the Jack Daniel's Rye. So as mentioned off the top, this one is coming in at 130.9 proof. Rickhouse on this one is 1-13, which is Coy Hill. And as I said, we were told this was a 9-year Coy Hill during the tasting. Now, this one is called the Sudden Death versus the flawless victory of the first one that we walked through. And I am going to readily admit here that I was in the other camp that voted on sample A rather than sample B. We blinded it. We've had a few flip-floppers, a few people that were consistent, but we could not get off a 3-by-3 tie no matter what we did. But the differences in the profile were how much darker and richer this one is versus the mouthfeel and the overall way off profile for a Jack Daniel's pick, citrus and effervescence of the one that ultimately lost. Now, we're about to go through the tasting notes here, but I've already conceded to the pick team that we chose the right one. And what's interesting about this one too is how much it even changed and improved in the extra 6 weeks it was in the barrel. We're about to go through the tasting notes here, but we did get to taste these as a group over the weekend. And it is kind of the consensus that the rye now outshoots the Tennessee whiskey when the Tennessee whiskey was supposed to be the flawless victory. So despite the names here, this Coy Hill rye was undoubtedly the right choice. And I'm excited to walk it through with you right now. So cheers, everybody. We're going to go through the nose and the palate, just as we did with the Tennessee whiskey, break down the notes, and then have some final thoughts before we shut this one down. So if you're still here and you're not part of the Whiskey Friend family, hit that like and subscribe. And once again, there are links in the description, either for the Patreon or the private Facebook group. You can even join the free tier on the Patreon. The Facebook group's free too. Just come on board, follow the journey, and if you're a cool whiskey friend, man, just jump into the community filled with so many amazing people. And I must say, when it comes to this community, you get what you put in. So be cool, be legit, and they can show you a good time. Man, I'm trying to get into the notes here. This one's going to take a little bit to break down. I haven't actually broken down my flavor notes on this, so I'm doing this with you as I record this. But this rye is so off profile now and so complex that I'm still trying to wrap my mind around it live as I'm going through it with you. I mean, on the nose on this one, we are talking about sparkling berries, like very distinctly. You could walk through it. Raspberries, blueberries, blackberries, even a bit of cherry that are glazed and glistening on top of a tart. Now, a tart is typically a brighter note, but then what's interesting here is that this whiskey's dark. Like, it is dark from the oak and like a very high char with that oak as well, contrasting all of those fruits and the tart note. I can't wait to compare this one back to the sample I have from that day. I'm going to do that on an upcoming live, but the nose on this is special. And shout out to Dusty Dan. Dusty Dan was on this one 100% the entire time. He was not going to let this one go. Now, just as I showed you before, you can see how oily and rich this thing is. That is definitely going to play through on what's going to happen to the palate here. So let's go in for a sip of the rye. Cheers, everybody. Up front, there are similarities between this Tennessee whiskey and the rye. This one does start very vanilla pudding, vanilla wafer forward, but it has those hints of the berries that make this one unique. All the flavors escalate into mid-palate. The oak and the char picks up, those berries and that cherry picks up. There's even a little bit of citrus that picks up amongst all that spiciness of the char. The finish is probably the main event on the rye. I'm going to get a bit descriptive here, but essentially what I'm tasting would be the equivalence of Angel's Food Cake as the base with vanilla pudding coated on top and those glazed fruits. The berries, the cherries, but finally the banana does enter the equation on the finish. But as you get through those glazed fruits, the char and the oak take over, and it essentially turns into a chocolate-covered banana by the very end. One heck of a ride, especially for a Jack Daniel's rye. Now going through this tasting experience with you, and this is the first time that I've really sat down and truly broken these down in this much detail, especially side by side. What's interesting to me now is how the Jack Daniel's profile is a bit different. The banana note does appear on the finish of each of these, but it hides itself amongst all of this berry up front. We talked a little bit about this over the weekend, but it almost feels like the Jack Daniel's distillate is in the midst of some type of transition where it is becoming more berry or cherry forward and less of that completely overt, obvious banana note. Doing them side by side, though, the Tennessee whiskey and the flawless victory is quite enjoyable, but gosh darn, that rye probably captured my heart. As mentioned off the top, this will be available through shared pour. If you're watching this when the video drops, the plan is to drop it this coming weekend. So keep an eye out on the Facebook group and the Patreon for more news. Just keeping in mind, there are a lot of groups collaborating on this pick, so be quick and be diligent if you're interested in this. Each of these will cost $84.99. And for those of you that purchase a bottle, be sure to come back to this video. Let me know what you think of these tasting notes and your experience as you go through it as well. And if you're interested in our barrel picks that are going to keep coming out, essentially each and every month, if we keep this pace, check us out on Patreon or Facebook in the description. And we'll catch you on the next one. Goodbye, buddy.